This is All of It. I'm Allison Stewart, live from the WNYC studios in Soho. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. I'm really grateful that you're here. On today's show, 2 ways to explore New York history, a preview of the annual Jane's Walk Festival, and an exhibit on New York under British occupation. Plus, we'll have highlights from our April Get Lit Book Club event with Cynthia Dupree-Sweeney. But first, here's a preview of our May pick. If you haven't already heard, we've announced our May Get Lit with All of It book club selection. We are reading the brand new novel from best-selling author Tom Perrotta. It's called Ghost Town. It just came out this week, hot off the presses. The story is set in 1970s suburban New Jersey. An 8th grader named Jimmy is grappling with a terrible loss. In the midst of his grief, he finds himself with 2 new friends, a stoner named Eddie and an older teenager named Olivia, who also has experienced a death in the family. Olivia has a Ouija board and wants Jimmy to use it. The novel also follows Jimmy as an adult. Now, Jay Perry, he's a successful writer who has been invited back to his hometown by the mayor, and that visit brings up all kinds of memories. Thanks to our partners at the New York Public Library, library card holders can check out an e-copy of Ghost Town right now with no wait times. You can also grab tickets to our live event with Tom Perrotta on Wednesday, May 27th. Head to wnyc.org/getlit for more information. But first now, here in studio to give us a little preview is Tom Perrotta. Tom, welcome to the studio.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here.
I read that you started plotting for this novel in 2020.
It was definitely a pandemic novel. I was going back to the house I grew up in because my elderly mom was having some trouble and of course was kind of isolated there. And so I just spent, that whole period in the house that I grew up in, sleeping in my old bedroom and kind of remembering. It just seemed like a world full of ghosts to me. And that somehow led me to this book and to making the ghost kind of a literal part of a novel.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You aren't necessarily known for writing autofiction, but a story sort of draws from your own background, as you said. What did you want to capture about being a kid in New Jersey in the 70s?
Well, we talk about childhood now and how, intensely surveilled kids are and how the parents are always looking over their shoulder and you can't actually ever get lost, right? Your parents can track you on a phone and, every day you're taking pictures. But I think that, there was that strange free-range quality, which, I think we can romanticize and there's some good things about it. It probably forced kids to grow up and be independent. But this book kind of also explores the dark side of that. Like what happens when you're being guided by misguided people.
Mm-hmm. The book is set in a fictional Jersey town, Creamwood, New Jersey. What's Creamwood like?
Creamwood is a blue-collar, mostly Italian-American suburb, but it is notably all white. And basically, Jimmy's going through a fog of grief in this summer. And, it's just living his private life, but there's a public drama that's happening around the racial politics of that particular time and place.
Is there a town you base it on?
Well, I grew up in a town called Garwood, and, in the same way that Jay Perry isn't me, Creamwood isn't exactly Garwood. It's like, I think that's why we write fiction, so that we're not kind of limited by the literal truth of the past.
I sort of, I grew up in northern New Jersey. I was like, I bet this might be fill in the blank.
There were a bunch of towns like that. Yeah.
My guest is Tom Perrotta, author of the new novel Ghost Town. It's our May Get Lit with All of It book club selection. To borrow your e-copy and get tickets to the May 27th event, head to wnyc.org/getlit. What is going on with young Jimmy Perini when we first meet him in the novel?
Well, Jimmy begins by saying, we used to be a normal family, and then something happened and we got weird. And that one thing is or the thing that begins this weird journey is the death of his mother.
Let's read a little bit from the book. That would be great for people to hear a bit.
This is Jimmy on the last night that his life is still normal. He was playing baseball on the night she died. No one had suggested that he might want to stay home that evening, keep her company, say what needed to be said. On the contrary, both his parents had encouraged him to go to the game, to be a normal kid, to keep on living his life. So that was what he did. He put on his uniform, wolfed down a pork roll and cheese sandwich, and told his father he was heading to the ballpark. "I'm sorry I can't be there," his father said. "It's okay," Jimmy told him. His father grunted, like it wasn't okay, but there was nothing anyone could do about it. He made a quick adjustment to the brim of Jimmy's cap and patted him twice on the shoulder. That was about as physical as they ever got with each other. "Good luck," he said. "I'll expect a full report." Jimmy hesitated at the door, or at least that was how he preferred to remember it. Maybe he had a premonition. Or maybe he just felt guilty, heading out to play a game while the rest of his family had to stay behind in a house that smelled like Glade air freshener and something else, the thing that the Glade couldn't quite manage to hide. "How's she doing?" Jimmy asked. "Okay," his father said. "It's been a long day." That must have been good enough for Jimmy, because he left without saying goodbye and missed his chance forever.
That was Tom Perrotta reading from his new book, Ghost Town. Jimmy's grieving. The family is grieving. I'm interested in what you wanted to explore about the way an 8th grader would grieve.
Yeah, I think nobody tells him how to grieve, and he's not like he's going to therapy. Basically, he's just left to his own devices. And I think the first way that the grief manifests itself is that he can't quite connect with his old friends. Right? They're still living their normal life. They're untouched by grief, and that's why he ends up, I think, finding his way to an older burnout named Eddie, who drives around at night and they just listen to music and get high. And then this girl, Olivia, whose dad has died, and she's very smart. She's the high school valedictorian, but I think she sees in him a kindred spirit. So there's almost like this secret community of people who are kind of stuck in their loneliness and their own grief, and they become, Jimmy's companions through this summer. And I think they're doing their best. I think they're just people who recognize each other's pain.
A Ouija board comes into the equation. First of all, have you ever used one?
Yes, I did. I did.
I think everybody who grew up in the 70s used one.
Oh, man, I got so spooked.
Someone else I know said that they would never touch one again after using it.
I have never touched one again. I ordered one from that era just to have while I was writing this book so I could look at it. And somebody was like, "Let's do it." And I'm like, "You go right ahead."
So you just had it to look at to kind of get the vibe?
I just wanted to make sure that I was describing it properly. But I remember that sense of the pointer, sliding around with nobody seeming to be willing it, and then you've got the suspense of the message being spelled out from the great beyond. It was, look, I was probably 12, and when I walked home that night, I was as scared as I've ever been.
Are you someone who believes in the supernatural?
I think there are things beyond our rational awareness, and I think some of it is we imagine, some of it we dream, some of it we probably walk through without even noticing. And I think something like the Ouija board just opens you up to those possibilities in a way that normal life doesn't.
We're talking to Tom Perrotta, author of the new novel Ghost Town. It's our May Get Lit with All of It book club selection. To borrow your e-copy and get tickets to our May 27th event, head to wnyc.org/getlit. We also meet Jimmy as an adult. He's going by J. Perry. He's become successful as a writer. How did you want Jay to be different from Jimmy?
So I think that is partly what the book explains. How do we get from this boy with the Ouija board to this man who is a successful writer, both as a literary novelist and then much later as a commercial novelist and a creator of a animated kids TV series. And I think that, for Jay, his life has gone off on a very different trajectory. And this summer is that he's telling about when he was 13 is the summer that explains that trajectory. And so I think the whole book is meant to tell you how Jimmy became Jay and how by telling Jimmy's story, Jay can see himself as a whole person rather than a fragmented person.
It's interesting because it goes back between Jimmy and Jay. What was interesting for you as a writer to write about the same person at different points in their lives?
I think if you live long enough, Jay is remembering back 50 years. And when you have that much past, I think there's just a mystery of how did I become who I am, and can I even remember the person that I was? And this is an extreme case because what happened to Jimmy was so traumatic that Jay has sort of cordoned it off and said, I don't go there, I don't think about that. But as a result of this invitation to return home, he has to do that. And that leads to the telling of the story. And I think to some sense of discovery and, compassion for the boy that he was and everything that he went through. So there's a kind of a healing for Jay, I think.
We always ask our Get Lit authors if there are any Easter eggs in the book or a section of the book you want our readers to pay attention to, or maybe a section of the book that was difficult for you to write and you soldiered through.
Well, the Easter eggs, I think, are in the descriptions of Jay's work. You mentioned that there was some autofictional element, but it's autofiction in a kind of comic funhouse mirror. So, Jay Perry is not Tom Perrotta, but some of his work has strange echoes of Tom Perotta's work. So I think if you know my work, if you know Little Children and some of the other the leftovers, and Bad Haircut, you will have maybe a slightly deeper appreciation for some of the Jay's literary works that are described.
My guest has been Tom Perrotta. He's the author of the brand new novel Ghost Town. It's our May Get Lit with All of It book club selection. It is excellent, by the way. To borrow your e-copy and get tickets to the May 27th event, head to wnyc.org/getlit. We'll see you on May 27th.
I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much.